So I wanted to show a little bit of the warrior and kind of talk about, kind of how I play the warrior class and just, tips on how to approach the warrior class. I think since Tera is now kind of becoming popular again because of the moving it to Steam, the addition of the gunner class, which is kind of a funny class. You can see the double XP event is active on the left side above my chat window. I kind of want to, I played the Tera from way back when the game first came out. Played warrior, I mean. But I want to talk about the class a little bit. I'm not really going to go through too much of the tooltip or too much of the, really the glyph setup and all that kind of stuff. I mean, if you want that kind of information, you can ask me questions. But there are certain. I will say that there are about 3 different types of setups I typically use with my glyphs. There's usually a healing setup, which I think is great for new warriors to the game who are trying to figure out really how to to kill BAMs and to tank mobs or to kill mobs, bosses. I mean, man, I cannot talk too well. I just woke up, so I don't think I'm awake yet. But killing like bosses in instances like this is Sinestral Manor. When you're practicing those bosses, I think it's a really good idea to, go ahead and glyph for some healing abilities. On your combative strike, you can put a glyph in there that's going to restore some health. You can also put one in on your evasive roll so that when you use poison blade, you get some health back as well. I like to use those if I am a new fledgling kind of warrior and I'm not really sure what I'm doing. And those are a great way to keep yourself alive in the fight, so you can practice learning the moves of the BAMs. Another note is, as a warrior, what you really need to do is you really, and goes for almost any class in Terra, but you really need to learn all of the BAMs, all of their moves and their animations, so that you can approach them when you run the instances, and so you have an idea, because in the instances they're going to do about 80% of those moves. They'll usually try to toss in like 1 new move or maybe 2 new moves that you don't see too much in the BAM of the similar type out in the world. But that's just some kind of little information here and there. As far as the glyphs, like I was talking about, so there's the healing one. Then there's one where I like to go with attack speed, which I think is very beneficial in instances for trash mobs. It's also beneficial, very beneficial in PvP. I think for the warrior is, I can do different abilities like evasive roll, and if you look at my buffs at the top left there, you can see that I gained for 5 seconds there. I've got increased attack speed, and that's something. It's called Glyph of the Swift. And you can see there it says Glyph of the Swift affects your abilities. That's something I like to use quite a bit on the warrior. It's beneficial in PvE, but it's also very beneficial in PvP. There's also one for... Sorry, I got a bit of a runny nose. I think I got a cold. There's also one for Death from Above as well you can use. The other thing to talk about as far as with your abilities is... Let's do some combat, because people are going to fall asleep listening to me talk. But basically on the warrior class, your skills, your greatest benefit is your ability to move. And what you want to do is you want to hit your targets obviously behind them and use Righteous Fury to move around quickly so that you can get out of their way of their attacks. So right here I'm just standing around, I'm waiting for her to cast her abilities. I'm going to go ahead and just finish her off. But here's a good example of 2 targets. And Righteous Fury is an ability that you'll see I can tap twice. So I'm going to hit once that, and I'm going to hit it again right now. Right there is my second tap on the key. There is a little bit of time between the first tap of the key and the second, so play around with how much time you have to work with. But it's your best ability as a warrior to move around your target. And you'll see I like to move my camera kind of above me, so I can see when I'm fighting multiple mobs. I'll zoom out a little bit here. So you can see this kind of distance, these little openings that open up in between them, which is what I like to use quite a bit against multiple mobs. I'll do a pounce here. I'll do a rain of blows in between the 2 mobs. I did get hit there, which is not preferable. But you can do quite a bit of damage by moving in between targets, hitting them, and not getting yourself. Here again, I'm going to move right through with just Righteous Fury. Didn't do anything special there, just Righteous Fury, but I'm hitting them, doing damage, and it's very difficult for them to hit me. Another thing that I like to do is pounce followed up by a rain of blows. And I'll show that here in a second. And I like to do that to the side of my target here. Again, he did hit me, but when they're hitting you at the side like that, it's not going to do a whole lot of damage because it's more of a glancing blow. You want to kind of avoid situations where you're getting hit full on. So, and it's tough to. You won't see a lot of videos where warriors are sitting here and going through and telling you what to do while they're actually doing it. And I kind of wanted to try to do that a little bit so you could see what I was talking about. But it does make it a little bit more difficult for me to actually execute my stuff cleanly because I'm trying to talk and think about what I'm saying at the same time that I'm playing. As I suck down some Coca-Cola. But the point is, against multiple targets, you want to move around them, between them, to the side of them. You're never throwing your attacks right in their face. That's not really kind of a good idea to how to play the warrior. If you're just going to stand right in front of them and start pounding on them, you're going to take quite a bit of damage. Let's see here again if we can illustrate in close quarters like this, especially how to kind of move around and not get hit so much. There's a great thing to note right there. If you saw that blade draw at the end of that attack there, I was completely past my target. And yet blade draw still hit my target. Again, I'm jumping to the sides, I'm jumping behind my targets. And I'll talk about that in a second. As far as like why that works. And there's my first DFA usage. Usually if I'm using that, it just means I'm not really moving very well. I don't really like to use that skill. I think it's kind of cheesy, or maybe a cheap way to avoid damage. It's good for boss fights, but against mobs I try to stay away with it because I think that's just me being lazy. But what I was talking about with blade draw is this ability right here. I'm going to do Righteous Fury into blade draw. That finishing there, I almost think of that as a finishing type of move, blade draw, because it's so prevalent in what I do with my arsenal of attacks. But as you're moving through a target, we'll say that this little Essence of Wind is a target. As I'm going through and I'm doing my Righteous Fury like this, and you can see Righteous Fury moves me forward. A lot of your abilities when you're a warrior move you forward. Like here, if I'm just doing regular attack, notice how I'm just holding down the mouse button and yet my character is moving. That's what makes the warrior class a great class and a fun class, because it has so much movement. But as I'm using Righteous Fury to move past a target, notice how the blade draw there, how he swings the swords out in a huge arc. Basically, the cone of attack, if you think of it, is almost 360 degrees of blade draw. So I can move through past a target and execute blade draw, and it will almost hit somebody who's literally behind me. And it's something you really want to pay attention to. Same thing with Pounce. It has not quite as much of a range of attack as blade draw, but it's still pretty good. So when you watch me in combat here in a few seconds, take note of some of these skills and where I am when they're actually landing on my targets. If you're not thinking about that when you're playing your warrior class, you're not really playing them to the best advantage that you can. You don't want to, like I said, stand in front of people and just beat on them. You want to move around them and use skills that have a cone of attack that's going to hit them even though you're standing to the side of them or standing behind them. When you're facing multiple targets, 4, 5, 6 or more targets, you want to change direction a lot. You don't want to just go one direction and keep moving that direction, because they will track you that way. So maybe move around a pack of mobs to the right, execute your Righteous Fury, quickly dodge back to your left, move around behind them, and then pop in, a Pounce followed by a combative strike. I would say the attacks I use the most in dungeons and in PvE, especially against a lot of targets, as far as my damaging skills, are going to be Righteous Fury into blade draw, or Pounce into combative strike, or just simply, there's a few others, evasive rolling over them and doing my, what's it called? I can't remember the name of the ability, but just here, I'll demonstrate it. So here's multiple mobs. So if I do an evasive roll over these guys, Let me first hit him so I'm in combat. This one, Vortex Slash. That's also something you can use to your advantage quite a bit, just because it does a pretty good amount of damage. There you saw Blade Draw actually hit a guy who was quite a ways away from me. So, multiple targets. Like I said, you're moving one direction. You don't want to keep moving that direction all the time. Here, I'll use, again, Pounce into Combative Strike. Now I'm going to change back in the direction. I do that because the AI takes a few seconds longer if I'm changing directions than if I just keep kiting the same way. See there, they're tracking me to that direction, so I quickly go back to the left. Took them a second to really kind of target me, move back to where I'm moving. I must apologize. My nose is really kind of bugging me right now. I'm running, but so you kind of see some of the main skills. You know, like I said, the vortex. You're in a dodge over. The Vortex Slash is a good skill because it does land and do a lot of damage. I wanted to talk about something that people don't talk about much with the warrior class, and there's the different animations. There's Pounce. This one. These are combat animations. There's Combative Strike. This one. And then your Righteous Fury again, which you tap once, and then you tap again. You really need to play around with Righteous Fury to get a good sense of how long you can go before hitting it again, because it's extremely, it's your most used ability. It's your best ability as far as getting out of way of bosses. You know, the Tera tanking on a warrior class has kind of been ruined when they added Resolve and block and all that kind of crap. When the game first came out, Tera tanking was with a warrior was the epitome of a skillful class. I mean, it was something that could be done, but you had to be very, very good, and it was a lot of fun. It was the best thing, as far as I'm concerned. It was the most enjoyable thing in the game to do, and you know, it felt like you accomplished something that was really difficult. And now with Resolve, it's completely been, in my opinion, ruined. I don't even bother trying to tank on a warrior because I think it's kind of stupid. But the different abilities, the animations, I kind of got off track there. Is that you're taking less damage when doing certain skills, and people don't talk about that too much. But if I do Pounce, I'm only taking 50% of normal damage while I'm executing that maneuver. If I'm doing Righteous Fury, I'm only taking 20% of. I'm taking 20% less damage, I should say. So I'm only taking 80% of normal damage while executing that skill. If I'm doing Combative Strike, I'm only taking 70% damage that I normally would take, as opposed to if I was just standing here swinging, I'm taking 100% of the damage that's coming my way. So obviously it behooves you to be using your skills as much as possible, because you're going to take less damage. But the biggest thing to remember is that as a warrior, my ways to avoid damage against a boss is Evasive Roll, which makes me completely immune to all damage. Death from Above, this one, which makes me completely immune from all damage. Those are my kind of like, oh shit abilities. And I'm going to toss those in there when I'm like, oh crap, I'm going to get hit. I'm going to use those skills. You want to save those for those situations where there's nothing else you can do. Or you know you're going to get hit by a boss with a big hit. That's when you want to use those skills. You don't just run around using those skills in a boss just to use them. That's kind of wasted. But if you have used those, and some bosses can do specific maneuvers, and they can actually, it's pretty random. They could do a quick spinning maneuver if they're like the big crab, and then all of a sudden they could do it again immediately. So you could get caught in a situation where you just used your roll, he does a quick spin, you've had to DFA that, and then he immediately goes into another spin, and you have no way to get out of the way. In those situations, what you want to do is you want to use Pounce, because at least if you hit Pounce, yeah, you're going to get hit, but you're only going to take 50% of that damage. So keep that in mind, that certain skills you use can reduce the incoming damage. Also, it's the same when you're fighting mobs like this mob here. You know, going in, if you just want to do a lot of damage, and you know you're going to take damage, but you just want to kind of limit that a little bit so you can keep going, you don't have to heal up, just make sure that you're doing it in a certain way. So here I'm doing this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do Blade Draw, You know, and maybe I want to finish this mob off quickly, so I'm going to go into my combo attack here. A lot of those abilities I'm using, I'm definitely going to take less damage. And I guess what I was trying to say is that if you're going to stand in the face of a mob and beat on him, do it with combative strike or do it with pounce or some of these abilities, so you know that even though you're going to get hit, you're going to take significantly less damage. And I'm rambling, but I'm just trying to go through some of this stuff quickly because for some reason I'm not feeling very good today. I just woke up and for some reason I feel kind of crappy. But okay, so again, back to the warrior's main reason to play a warrior. It is fun. There's a lot of movement. As you go through a normal attack like this in like Sinestral Man or any kind of an instance, here's Blade Draw coming up. See how it hit that target for 4689 damage, and it was completely behind me. Pounce into combative strike again to the side of my target. Here, use Vortex Slash at a distance because it has good range, but you don't want to get hit. So don't bother trying to hit him when you're like right next to him. You don't need to do that. So know the ranges of your abilities. Another thing to note is just strafing. Right now I'm just strafing to the right and using regular attack, and notice how I'm doing damage, but I'm not really getting hit. You can use that quite a bit when you're low on MP. I want to kind of finish these guys off a little bit, but you can use that when you're low on MP. And what I'm talking about really is this. I'm just holding strafing left and using normal attack. It's also great to parry that with some glyphs that increase your attack speed, because that's much more effective when you're attacking a lot quicker. And here's what I was talking about with two mobs tracking you. Watch how these guys, I'm kind of running in one direction. When you get mobs that are a little bit smarter and faster, you don't want to just keep going around to the right. You want to basically hit them and then quickly use Righteous Fury to move around the other way, and then it takes them quite a bit longer to switch direction if you do that. The AI is not quite as quick. There, I switched direction. A lot of times too, just tapping attack once, like here I'll just tap regular attack once and then don't attack again for a second. So tap, move, tap. If you hold it down, it slows you down basically. I like that. If you hold it down, it slows you down. But just tap, and that's also kind of helps you to just kind of move around your guy. You want to keep hitting targets, especially bosses, because it keeps them close, it keeps them invested in you. If you just start moving around them a lot against a boss, he may start doing some stuff you don't really want him to do. He may jump away from you, he may get disinterested. It's best to keep landing blows consistently against BAMs and against big bosses. And I know that's kind of an unusual thing to say, but you'll know it when you kind of play the class and a little bit and get a feel for what Warrior can do. Oh, that was a terrible blade draw. Didn't get it comboed correctly. But again, Warrior, practice moving. See, I'm just kind of moving around, kind of line up your targets. Look for a good spot to kind of come in here. Use Righteous Fury. Maybe I'll do this off to the side here. If I want to regen MP, you just need to, well, you don't want to get hit like that, but you just want to get behind your target. I jumped because of her spell there that I thought might land on me. Get behind your target, make sure you've got the crystal to help your mana regen, the infused crystal, or actually, I can't remember what it's called. Brilliant, I believe, the Brilliant Crystal. It'll proc your infusion, which is going to give you mana, MP. Got targets facing away from you executing animations. Go ahead and use Vortex Slash. Pounce to the side. Again, there I'm taking damage, but I'm in the middle of an animation, so it's probably not as much. Now I'm just going to move around and strafe a little bit. Here I'm strafing. Again, move the camera above. Look for a way that you can move between your targets. It's kind of preferable here. Go ahead and take this person out. Don't forget, even, I mean, in some MMOs they don't like the use of the back key, and WoW people don't like to move back because it's slower, but in Tera it's not the case. So, you know, the S key here, very valuable to use, you know, moving around. Now I can kind of hold strafe and move back at the same time. It's actually, you know, it's worth using. So, there again, Righteous Fury with Combative Strike to the side of my target. Righteous Fury. Now notice there I just tapped it once and then I waited quite a while before hitting it the second time. That's good because it helps me move better. I'll tap it, move into position, and then use it. So use that extra time you have before you hit it that second time to really move to where you want. I screwed that up because I was talking, but basically what I wanted to show you here was moving in between my target, then blade draw in between my target. Again, pounce to the side, following up with combative strike, hitting my target even though I'm completely beyond my target. These are the main key abilities you want to use with your warrior that allow you to do damage but not take damage. Okay, enough of me rambling. What else can I talk about with the warrior class? I wish I was up to a boss, but I'm not. Maybe I'll take another video when I'm at the boss. That's most of the stuff I kind of wanted to go over. I mean, I would go over tanking, but since they changed tanking, it's not like it used to be. It's kind of not something that I really want to do anymore in the game, which is really unfortunate. But if you do want to tank on your warrior and you toss in your, oops, I hit the wrong seal. If you toss in your F2, for me it's F2, turn on your defensive stance. You have your blocking, your cross block and stuff. I'm not really going to go into too much. I will say that if you're going to tank, you have to face tank. And what that means is you want to stand in front of your target. You want to use this skill here, which will get aggro. It's called Torrent of Blows. You want to stack a couple threatening crystals. I would stack those. I still would stack. I'm not sure if I would stack the Brilliant Crystal for mana regen. I don't know. I mean, it's not the way the game isn't the way it used to be. But if you're going to tank, you want to face tank. You want to stand in front of your target. Like if I was tanking this guy, I want to stand in front because you want to face the boss away from your group. So stand in front. Use your Torrent of Blows, this one here, to retain threat. Use that every time it's available. If use it in situations where you can't use it. Obviously, you're going to be using your taunt ability. You want to change your talents so that you get more aggro with that. Did I say talents? I did. Go into your glyphs here. I would probably pick up the decreased cooldown and the one that increases threat. This one. But you're going to want to, like, if this piece of gold here is the boss, tank in front of him, use your skills, do your damage, use your threatening ability. But you want to kind of tank to the, well, now we need something else to kind of go off of here. You want to move off of it. Here, let me kill one of these guys really quick. Okay, I just wanted to take out that one mob. So if I was taking this guy, you basically want to face tank. And what I mean by that is you're standing in front of his face. You want to use this ability here because it will get threat. That little icon that pops up means you're getting threat with that ability. When the boss does a big move, you want to use Righteous Fury to the side to move away from it. You want to tank off the edges of his left foot and his right foot. So I would tank kind of here and then move off to his left side here, like hit him here, move over here. If he's going to execute a big skill and I want to get out of the way, I want to use Righteous Fury to the side like that. Or obviously I want to jump straight back. You're not going to jump through him because that's stupid. You don't want to turn the boss around. You want to keep him facing you. So make sure you're jumping straight back from him like this. Keep him facing you. Keep using your threatening ability here. You can dive to the side if you want. That's fine. You can use Righteous Fury to the side, but always keeping the boss facing you and away from your group. That's if you want a warrior tank. I haven't warrior tanked since they added Resolve to the game. I don't really enjoy it, to be honest. From what it used to be very enjoyable. So those little tips as far as just kind of tanking a little bit. Make sure, like I said, you're using threatening crystals and different things that give you more threat. I know I did try to tank once a couple days ago, and it seemed like I had some issues with MP regen, so you'd have to look at that. And that may not be an issue if you have the right infused charm, along with a priest who's giving you maybe some mana regen. I can't remember if priests even give mana regen. But if you are tanking, you get into trouble. You have this ability to avoid getting hit. You have your dodge. But another thing that you can use that people don't always use, but you have to be very good with it, is you got to be able to use your leaping strike in certain situations to avoid damage. And what I'm talking about is like, this mob here is going to hit me. Let's see if he's going to hit me. And I fucked it up. He's going to hit me, and I do this. I leap away. So that's one way to do it. And usually the way I would do that is if evasive roll and death from above or down, I would use that to leap away directly away from him. So I would spin my camera or just do this. Actually, that doesn't work. You can't pull dash. That's why I always spin my camera. Spin my camera and move away like this. That's another way that you can avoid getting hit. And of course, like I talked about before, if you have no other way to avoid getting hit, just do pounce, because at least you'll be taking 50% less damage. But remember, tank in front of your target like this. Use your threatening abilities. Pounce to the side. DFA, whatever you want to do. Keep in front. Keep them facing away from your group. If you don't do that, your group's going to laugh at you and say, you're a terrible tank and warriors can't tank, which is probably not true. It definitely wasn't true before. Now that they have resolve and stuff, now that they have resolve and stuff, people are going to be spamming this block ability, which is, let me grab it here, which is this skill, which is, in my opinion, very gay for the warrior class. Anyways, I'm done with this video. I'm sorry that I was sniffling and stuff, but hopefully I said something that was helpful. It is like 5 in the morning or something, 6 in the morning, I guess. I just woke up. And if you have any questions about glyphs or about anything else, just put them in the comments section. Thanks.